My name is Lena, and I want to tell you something I never imagined living through. My son Malik was my world. From the moment he was born, I surrounded him with love, care, and all the things I never had as a child. My husband, Isaac, always said I was spoiling him, but I saw it as love. Let him be a child, I would tell him. Life is hard, and I want his childhood to be perfect. Isaac was a strict man, hardworking, with solid values. But our ideas clashed. While he believed in discipline, I believed in indulgence. And Malik, with his radiant smile and mischievous eyes, knew exactly how to manipulate us. Soon, my indulgence began to show warning signs. If Malik broke something, I justified it. If he took something that wasn't his, I laughed and said, "He's just a curious child." Isaac tried to correct him, but I always stopped him. How could I scold my little one? To me, loving him meant protecting him from everything. As Malik grew, his behavior became increasingly problematic. What started as small pranks turned into acts of open rebellion. At school, he mocked teachers, disrupted classes, and led groups of kids into mischief that often turned into real disasters. Disciplinary reports began piling up, but I always found an excuse to defend him. The teachers just don't know how to handle a child as intelligent as Malik, I would say. Maybe they should focus more on inspiring him and less on scolding him. Things came to a head when a teacher, Mrs. Agatha, tried to suspend him for disobeying and openly laughing during a lesson. Malik, confident he wouldn't face any consequences, called me in the middle of class, feigning tears. I rushed to the school like a lioness defending her cub, ready to take on anyone. "This is ridiculous," I shouted in the principal's office. "My son isn't the problem. You are the problem. He's just a child, for God's sake." After much arguing and even hinting that I might withdraw my donations to the school, I managed to get the suspension revoked. I left feeling victorious, or so I thought. At home, Isaac watched everything with growing frustration. "Lena, this isn't right. You're teaching him to manipulate you, to manipulate everyone," he would say, a mix of anger and sadness in his voice. But I, blinded by love and pride, refused to listen. "Isaac, don't exaggerate. Malik is just a child. Why can't you be a little more understanding?" But what happened that afternoon with our housekeeper, Amina, was the hardest blow, though I didn't realize it at first. Amina had been with us for years and was like part of the family. That day, she was cleaning the living room when Malik entered, demanding her attention in an almost arrogant way. When she ignored him, focused on her work, Malik pushed her so hard that she fell to the ground along with a bucket of water she was carrying. From the kitchen, Isaac heard the commotion and came running to see what had happened. "What is this, Malik?" he asked, his voice firm but controlled. Malik, far from feeling guilty, looked at him with a coldness that chilled me. "So what if I pushed her? She works here, doesn't she? It's not your problem." Isaac tried to reason with him, but what shocked me most was the indifference on my son's face, as if what he had done didn't matter. When Isaac tried to impose a punishment, I quickly intervened. "Isaac, please stop overreacting. He's just playing." Amina, with tears in her eyes, remained silent, unsure of what to do. Isaac, on the other hand, looked at me with a sadness I will never forget. "Playing? Is this what you call playing? Lena, this isn't right. We can't go on like this." But I clung to my excuses. "He's just a child. You're making it bigger than it is." Isaac sighed deeply, as if he were giving up. "Do what you want, Lena," he said in a defeated voice. "But one day you'll understand." Those words hung in the air like a premonition I chose to ignore. From that moment on, I noticed Isaac began to distance himself, not just from me but also from Malik. He no longer tried to correct him. He simply observed from a distance, resigned. His emotional absence was something Malik also noticed, but instead of reflecting on it, he used it as an opportunity to gain more power at home. His orders to the household staff became more authoritative, his tone more hurtful, and I, as always, justified it. That one day arrived, bringing with it a reality more terrifying than I ever imagined. Malik had not only become a problem at school and in the community, he had also become someone unrecognizable to me. At 16, he was no longer the loving child I had raised. He was feared, not loved. His peers avoided him, neighbors whispered his name in hushed tones, and at home, even the staff avoided him. Yet I continued to justify him, clinging to an image of my son that had long ceased to exist. But the truth was that Malik wasn't just a stranger. Something darker was growing inside him, something I refused to see. His smiles felt empty, his gestures of affection seemed forced, and though I sometimes tried to recall the days when I held him tenderly, those memories felt increasingly distant. Until that night, the night that changed everything. It was late when I got home. The day had been long, and I was exhausted, eager to collapse into bed and forget the world for a few hours. As always, Malik was there, waiting for me in the hallway. "Let me get you some water, Mom," he said, with a smile that seemed so innocent. For a moment I felt a spark of hope. Maybe there was still something good left in him, I thought. Maybe I could save him. I watched him disappear into the kitchen as I sank into the couch. He quickly returned with a glass of fresh water, and I accepted it without a second thought. "Thank you, my love," I said, caressing his cheek. He smiled again, but there was something unsettling in his gaze. There was a strange glint in his eyes, something I couldn't quite place. I drank the water as he watched me, his eyes fixed on me as if he were waiting for something. Shortly after, I began to feel dizzy. My body weakened, and an irresistible drowsiness washed over me. It must be exhaustion, I thought, struggling to stay awake. Malik came closer, holding me by the shoulders. "You're very tired, Mom. You should rest," he said with a sweetness that now, looking back, chills me to the bone. Everything that happened after is a blur. I woke up hours later, my body heavy and my mind foggy. There was something strange in the air, a feeling that something was out of place. That's when I saw him. Malik was there in my room, and what he was doing was unimaginable. For a moment I thought I must be dreaming, that my mind was playing tricks on me. But it wasn't a dream. It was real. "No, Malik. What are you doing?" I whispered, my voice breaking with fear and confusion. I tried to move, but my body wouldn't fully respond. He stopped, looked me directly in the eyes, and with a coldness I will never forget said, "Don't act surprised, Mom. This isn't the first time." His words hit me like a blow. It wasn't the first time. What did he mean by that? Nausea swept over me as the pieces began to fall into place. The nights I had felt strangely tired, the times I woke up disoriented. Everything made sense now. A terrifying sense I didn't want to accept. I managed to gather the little strength I had left and screamed at him. "Get out of here, Malik. Get out right now." But he didn't move. His face was a mix of defiance and satisfaction, as if he were enjoying my horror. "You're mine, Mom," he said with chilling calm. "You've always been mine." In that moment, something inside me broke. All the love, all the protection I had given him, all that I had sacrificed for him, turned into a mix of fear, disgust, and regret. With desperate effort, I pushed Malik away with all my strength, managing to get him far enough for me to get out of bed. I ran out of the room, stumbling over furniture, my heart pounding wildly. I didn't stop until I was outside the house, the cold night air hitting my face. I looked back and saw the lights of my home, the place that had been a refuge for me and was now a prison. I knew I couldn't go back. Malik was no longer my son. He was a stranger, a monster I had created with years of blindness and indulgence. Without a second thought, I ran to the police station. I arrived barefoot, in my nightgown, my hair disheveled, and my face stained with tears. "Help me!" I screamed as I entered. The officers looked at me in alarm, their faces reflecting both concern and confusion. "It's my son. Something is wrong with him. He tried to hurt me." What followed was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. As the police headed to my house, I stayed at the station, trembling and praying that all of this was a bad dream. But I knew it wasn't. A line had been crossed, one from which there was no return, for him or for me. When the officers arrived at the house, they found Malik waiting for them, a knife in his hand. "She's mine," he shouted. It took the entire team to subdue him. As they handcuffed him, I saw a young man I didn't recognize, a monster I had created. Today, Malik is in a detention center, and I live with the weight of my mistakes. It all began with my love, but it was a love without limits, without discipline, without respect. Now I share my story with other mothers so they won't make the same mistake. Loving doesn't mean always saying yes. Loving means teaching them how to live in the world, to respect it, and to respect themselves. Loving our children doesn't mean protecting them from everything. It means preparing them to face life with integrity. If this story touched you, leave me a comment and subscribe for more stories that remind us of what really matters in life.